It's warning, 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 warning. CBD has now become mainstream. Peace and light, family. I hope that you are well. So as you see, I have my infamous lock bun going here. I got my satin pillowcase. I'm about to go to bed. However, I first wanted to discuss something that I use almost on a nightly basis. And there are so many benefits of it. It's everywhere now. In lotions, you can get it in Walmart, you can get it in Vitamin Shop, DNC, and there are so many beautiful benefits, but there are also some cons that a lot of people are not talking about. So what am I talking about, you guys? CBD. Let's talk about CBD. Let's talk about I couldn't think of nothing to rhyme with CBD, but it's all right with me. There we go. Let's go. Let's get started. So the first important thing to note is that there are 3 different types of CBD oil. So when you see things that say they have CBD in it, you need to read to see which form is in there. So the first and most common type that is used is CBD isolate. And CBD isolate just simply means that it is solely the CBD cannabinoid that has been extracted from the cannabis plant. I'm going to say that again. It simply means that the CBD cannabinoid has been isolated, and that is the only thing that has been extracted from the cannabis plant and is being used in that product. That is normally the most common form of CBD you'll use. The benefit of having isolate is that there is 0% THC. So if you are giving CBD to a child, a minor, or someone who does not even want to risk testing positive for THC, definitely make sure that they are receiving the isolate. Then on the opposite end, you have full spectrum, which full spectrum CBD oil, it's not CBD oil necessarily because it's not an isolate. Full spectrum means that every cannabinoid from the cannabis plant has been extracted and is being used in that product. So when I say cannabinoids, I'm not just talking about CBD. I'm talking about THC. I'm talking about different terps. There are so many different cannabinoids that are in the cannabis plant. And the cannabinoids are what really give us that full body effect of relaxation and some of the other pros and cons that I'll talk about later on in the video. So isolate is just pure CBD. Full spectrum is a variety of cannabinoids, including a little bit of THC. Now, most often when you find full spectrum CBD products, it usually has less than 1% THC. However, some people have reported that they have tested positive for marijuana when they go for a drug test solely off of using full spectrum CBD oil. So just be mindful of that. Now, a middle ground that you have between isolate and full spectrum is called broad spectrum. Now, I'm going to be honest, it's kind of rare to find broad spectrum, but broad spectrum CBD oil means that there is some isolate, there's mostly CBD, but there can be small traces of other cannabinoids found in that product. For example, there's usually less than 0.3% of THC in broad spectrum. So just a small trace of THC and some other cannabinoids. However, you can still test positive for marijuana off of broad spectrum CBD oil. Now, the beautiful thing about isolate, broad spectrum, full spectrum is that they are literally a range of potencies and powers. I have tested all of them and I find that, of course, I have the highest effect and I feel the highest effect from full spectrum, and I'll talk about what those effects are when I move to pros and cons, but I feel the most effect and the most immediate effect from full spectrum, and then the effect kind of slowly dissipates as I move to broad spectrum and isolate. However, whether I'm using the isolate or full spectrum or broad spectrum, I still feel some pros and some cons from each of them. So what are those pros and cons? So let's get started. So the first pro I'm going to move to is high or nah. Listen, I am a person who I struggle with anxiety. I always have. I would wake up in the morning and I would feel very anxious before going to school when I was a teenager, middle school as well. I didn't like being in large crowds. I always struggled with a form of anxiety, feeling very nervous, anxious, so on and so forth. So I became a heavy weed smoker at the age age of 14. Weed definitely helped relieve that anxiety for the most part. Sometimes, depending on the type of weed, it would make me more anxious, but I became a pothead from about the age of 14 till about the age of 21. And when I say a pothead, I was smoking almost every single day. At about 17 to 21, it was multiple times a day. And at 21, I decided, like, look, I need to take a break, and I went cold turkey. I just realized that my bun is like taking on making a cameo. Okay. And yes, weed definitely helped me with my anxiety, and it helped relieve some of that stress and some of that pressure associated with anxiety. However, I did often miss that feeling of just being a little high. So when I was trying CBD oil, like most people, a lot of people are hoping that, like, oh, am I going to feel something? I'm going to keep it all the way honest. When I was using full spectrum, so I bought the full spectrum oil, right? So I was using the full spectrum oil, and you just put like a drop under your tongue. You let it sit for about 30 seconds, and then you swallow it. When I used the full spectrum oil, I felt a buzz. I didn't feel high like if I smoked a blunt, but I felt like I just tapped the blunt a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I definitely felt the buzz with the full spectrum, but keep in mind, the full spectrum does have about 1% or less of THC. Keep that in mind. So you are going to feel a little buzz from the full spectrum. I know a few people who overuse the full spectrum just so they could feel that buzz for real, for real. However, I advise that you not do that, and I'll discuss that when it comes to the cons of why you should not overuse not just full spectrum, but any form of CBD. But yeah, so I definitely felt like a little buzz when I was using the full spectrum. With the broad spectrum, it kind of decreased. I just felt very calm. The anxiety felt relieved, but I didn't necessarily feel high. With the isolate, I don't ever feel high at all. So once again, just moving down that spectrum. With the full spectrum, I felt a little high. With the broad spectrum, kind of minimum, like you just feel like a little like, okay, I feel good, you know. And then with the isolate, you don't really feel high at all. So the big question that I had, and what I really wanted to know when I was using CBD, is, will it help relieve my anxiety? Like, a lot of people said, like, you know, oh, just try it out. It's great for relieving anxiety. And that's a big way that it's being advertised in mainstream media. Use CBD for anxiety relief. Use CBD to make you feel less stress, feel less pressure, all this other stuff. And honestly, it has helped. I find that when I take CBD at night, it does help relieve my anxiety the next day. I don't wake up in the morning feeling anxious. I don't feel like my mind is racing. I don't feel like I have a lot of thoughts flowing through my head. I don't feel too much pressure of like, what am I going to do? I got to get this done, that done. That was what a lot of my anxiety feelings were. Like, I have to get this done, that done, that done. I didn't necessarily feel those feelings. So it does have a positive effect. Now, once again, with the full spectrum, when I was on a full spectrum, I be chilling, okay? Because I'm also feeling that little bit of high. So I'm just like, woo. I remember one time, me and my friend, I probably shouldn't say this story, but I'm going to say it because I'm keeping it real with y'all. We family. But one time we was on the road, driving down south on a road trip, and I gave her some full spectrum CBD. I took some full spectrum, and we was talking, and next thing you know, we just zoned out and we chilling. And we got some jazz music on, and we just vibing. And she looked over at me, she said, sis, that shit got me feeling good. I was like, yeah, girl. Like, we was just vibing, not a care in the world. So the full spectrum definitely like eases you and brings you to a maximum cool, calm, relaxed vibe. It's a vibe. But once again, keep that THC in mind. Now with the broad spectrum, I still felt that calmness, that natural, like, cool. But I definitely didn't feel like as deep of like a I felt like I could still function with the broad spectrum. Now with the isolate, I feel a relief of anxiety. However, I don't feel any of the like cool, calm, I'm chilling. I still feel like my regular self. It's just less anxiety. So it's not as effective to me as the full spectrum or the broad spectrum. I just feel less anxiety. Not to say that it's completely gone, but I definitely just feel less of it. Now I'm going to say this. I have a family member who struggles with anxiety a lot. She's a teenager. 17 years old to be exact, and she's tried CBD. And when she tried the CBD, at first she tried the isolate, which 0% THC. Once again, she's a minor, so 0% THC. We actually bought it from like the corner store down the block. It wasn't like, not just right out the store. It's nothing you ordering offline, just regular isolate. So anyway, she tries the isolate and she was like, oh, I don't feel nothing. I don't feel anything at all. But she had the gummies. So she's doing the gummy every day. And she's like, I don't feel anything. Like, it does nothing for me. She didn't realize the effect that it was having on relieving her anxiety until she stopped taking it. She ran out of it and then was like, hold up. Like, I can't stop tapping my pencil. I can't stop looking around. I can't stop thinking these thoughts. Like, okay, what's different? The gummies is gone. She wasn't taking the gummies. So when she stopped taking the isolate, the CBD isolate, she then realized that, oh, it was helping me. And that's how the isolate is. It's still effective, but you don't feel that buzz that a lot of people look for, because people hear CBD, they hear it comes from cannabis, they expect to get a little high. You don't necessarily feel that buzz, but it just naturally relieves some of that anxiety and some of that pressure. And you may not feel it, but when you don't take it, then you feel that anxiety creep back and you like, oh, this thing was working. And that was the experience she had. So does CBD relieve anxiety? I would definitely say it does. But the higher you get on the spectrum, broad spectrum, full spectrum, it relieves the anxiety, but also give you that love. Cool, you know what I'm saying? So a huge pro of CBD that I was not privy to prior to using it is how much it helps you sleep better. CBD really, I feel like beyond an anxiety relief, it should be advertised more as a sleep aid. CBD knocks me out. It knocks me out to the point that I can't even take it in the morning. I used to take it in the morning and then I would be at work and I'm like, yo, I am tired. I am drained. I could have a cup of coffee. I'm drinking my herbs, taking my ginseng. I'm like, what's going on? Like, I am drained. It was the CBD. So I had to stop taking it in the morning and I only take it at night now. I actually have some right here with me, my gummies. And as you can see, I take it at night and I take it often. This is how much I have left, okay? So the thing about the CBD gummies is there's about 24 milligrams of CBD per gummy. And that's really about all you need. That's really like the max that you should take. Y'all, 24 milligrams, one little gummy puts me out for the night. If I take two, I'm out for 10 hours. Okay, CBD is definitely a sleep aid. And this is the isolate. This is not even full spectrum oil. This is the isolate. Then when I was taking the full spectrum oil, y'all, I used to be knocked out. Like, yeah, I would be feeling that cool, calm, and then I'm like, okay, I was out. Out. Okay. CBD is no game when it comes to getting some good sleep. So if you know someone who's struggling with insomnia, please let them try some CBD. One gummy. If they have it really bad, give them 2 gummies. If they need the full spectrum oil, 1 to 2 drops under the tongue. Let them get a little A, and then they're going to be A. Okay, I'm serious. It is a perfect sleep aid. That is simply why I recommend, once again, do not take your CBD in the morning. Do not take it in the morning. Only at night. Now, let's move to some cons of the CBD, okay? Because there are 2 major cons that I was not aware of. Con number 1, the headaches. Y'all, for some reason, if I take 1 gummy, I feel like a slight headache after I wake up sometimes. But if I take 2, my head is pounding. pounding. And I know that it's the CBD because when I don't take it, I don't wake up with a headache. But if I take CBD, it's almost guaranteed that I'm going to wake up with a headache the next morning. I don't know why. I don't know what's that about. But a headache is definitely a side effect. And that's why I said earlier in the video, do not overuse it. Do not overuse it. I remember one time I was taking a full spectrum oil. I was trying to be a little fancy. I did 2 drops, boom, boom. Later on in the day, I felt my little cool wearing off. I took 1 more drop, so that's 3 drops in total. My head was booming. Like 3 hours later, my head was like pounding. Okay, so headaches is definitely a side effect for me. So just be mindful of that. Make sure that you are taking your proper dosage of CBD. Okay, do not overuse it. And sometimes, even if you take the proper dosage, just know that you might suffer from a headache. That's a side effect that a lot of people don't really talk about. Another kind of CBD, and it just depends on the person, it depends on your budget, but it can definitely be a little expensive for some people. Now, my CBD, I order offline. Websites that I recommend are CBD.com. You can do just CBD. I've tried out multiple websites. I try to get the vegan gummies, vegan edibles. If I can't get the vegan edibles, then I'll definitely just get the pure oil. However, order it offline. If you order it offline, it'll definitely be about $50 for the 1,000 milligram. This jar that I have is 1,000 milligrams and it is $50. 48 pieces come in this one jar. Now, if I take 1 piece a night, I'm averaging a little bit more than $1 per piece. So $1 per night, I would be averaging for 1 gummy. Now, so that means that it will last me about a month and a half. Now, for some people, that may be a little expensive, you know, and I do understand that. And for me, sometimes I will even say, I skip a few nights just to save. You know, I only take it when I feel like I really need it. If I can't go to sleep naturally, or I cannot relieve my anxiety through meditation, through yoga, through tea, through natural herbs, CBD is a last resort for me. So I've had this jar for about 3 months now. I've had this jar. I definitely don't use it on a regular daily basis. So keep that in mind. If you do get like the 48 piece jar, the 50 piece jar, some places sell it 48, some places sell it 50. If you do get the 50 piece, for me, 3 months this has lasted because I don't take it every day. Now, if you do plan on taking it every day and you do plan on taking a max dose, which is about 2 per day, then you're going to go through that 50 piece in less than a month. So just be mindful about your expenses when it comes to the CBD, how much you're taking versus how much you're willing to spend. So this next thing I would honestly just say is a warning. It's not a con, but it's warning. CBD has now become mainstream. When I walk past GNC and they have signs in the window, vitamin shop, signs out on the street that they selling CBD now, it is mainstream. Mainstream means that it's also cut, it's watered down. So you have to be mindful about where you're getting it from, what you're getting. Do your research. Make sure that you ask or you read the labels. Is this isolate? Is this broad spectrum? Is this full spectrum? What is it being mixed with? What preservatives? What additives? Just be mindful and make sure that you read your label so that you know what you're getting. Know what products is in your food so you can know what's putting in your body. I'm always advertising, try to be as plant-based as possible. Different websites, type in vegan CBD gummies. That's something I do all the time, and I'm always trying out different stuff. Now, I'm not going to plug specifically any website because I honestly have not found one that I'm like dedicated and die hard to yet. If somebody out there knows some good vegan CBD gummies, holla at a sister, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, just be mindful that they're watering it down now. So just be very cautious about where you're getting it from. Okay, be very cautious. So overall, would I recommend CBD? Absolutely. I would recommend it if you want to relieve anxiety, if you want to sleep better, I definitely would recommend it. If you want to give it to a youth, someone under 18, make sure that it's CBD isolate. If you are an adult and you have nothing to do, I recommend that you use the full spectrum. When I say nothing to do, I mean like you don't have to go to work, you're not on the road driving, you know. make sure that you get the full spectrum. If you want the full effect, if you don't have to worry about drug tests, get the full spectrum. But if not, if you do have to worry about drug tests, or you just want to relieve that anxiety, get some better sleep, and you don't want the extra little cool, calm, and collected that bonus little pinch of THC may add, get the isolate. The isolate is effective. It works. Okay. So I hope this video was helpful. If you try CBD, let me know what pros and cons that you've had from it. Leave your questions and comments below. I'm more than willing to either answer your questions and comments directly, or I may do a whole video dedicated to your question or your comment. Much love, much light, much peace, family. I'll talk to you soon. Bye from me and my bun, okay? Because my bun is saying hey today. All right. It's falling though. Peace, family.